Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to a brand new episode of Geeks from the Multiverse. And today we are debating whether Marvel is still good or if it's gone bad. So we're asking something more uncomfortable because we want to ask, does Marvel still understand its own characters? There was a time when flaws built these heroes, consequences shaped them, but now it just feels different. Characters feel more like table centerpieces, and Marvel seemingly has traded good writing and character development to presentations and representation. So today we're asking, has Marvel lost its narrative discipline?
We're geeks from the multiverse. We're here to unite all geeks. It's time to get geeky and dive right in. Cause we're geeks from the multiverse.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Geeks from the Multiverse. I am your host, Grumpy Beard, and with me, as always, Captain Lestat.
What's up? Yeah, what's up, y'all? Yes, now today is a very interesting one because, of course, with me and Matt, Marvel has always been a very hot topic. And so, like, when we started our friendship and stuff, I mean, we started talking a lot about Marvel and all these other things. And so we've always had a soft spot.
Well, that's
for
because
this
they
one.
were good then.
You're right. When it was actually good, because now it's like, oh my God, what is going on right now? And so now what we're looking at is like, really, is Marvel actually going to be doing the right thing moving forward? And so, like, before we get going here, it's like, it's crazy to see, like, when we started our friendship, like, yeah, we were, Marvel was still in its prime,
Yeah.
still doing its thing and doing whatever. And then, we watched all the movies together. Well, some of them, like, there was some that we definitely went to go see together. But, like, after that, it was like, again, what are we doing here? And so, again, the name of the episode, has Marvel lost narrative discipline? Well, we're going to answer that. But the thing is we're also going to be talking about other movies and other things and trying to compare what the fuck is doing better versus what Marvel's doing right now.
Right. So, yeah, we wanted to bring up some of the upcoming movies this year. These aren't a whole definitive list because you can just go on like IMDb or somewhere to look it up yourself.
Oh yeah, these
But
are
we
just, we'll
picked
say,
out, yeah,
top.
yeah, we picked out the best ones that we're kind of looking forward to. Some more than others, some less than others. But I'm going to go through the list and then we can kind of talk about them. Maybe not all of them, but some of the ones that we're looking forward to the most. So we got Scream 7, Mortal Kombat 2,
Mm-hmm.
Street Fighter, Scary Movie 6, done by the Wayans brothers,
Mm-hmm.
Spider-Man Brand New Day, Star Wars Mandalorian and Grogu, Masters of the Universe, Supergirl, Jumanji 3, Toy Story 5, Godzilla Kong Supernova,
Mm.
Godzilla Minus Zero. There's 2 Godzilla movies this year.
Oh boy.
Crazy, right? Clayface, Death of Robin Hood, Resident Evil, The Hunger Games Sunrise on the Reaping, Ebenezer, A Christmas Carol starring Johnny Depp, Dune 3, and Avengers Doomsday.
See, and it's funny when you look at the last one, Doomsday. Okay,
Yes.
it's crazy to me when you look at this movie. We've been waiting for a while. Okay, we've been waiting for a while for this movie, but the thing is about this particular movie. So we're, as we already know from anything from 2019. Well, I'll say this: after Endgame, and then everything in between that, and then this movie. Honestly, Matt, I can name probably a few that were actually good enough, not the same caliber as the prime, Marvel, era, but like there's very few movies that will stand on their own. You know what I mean? From that time to this time, so now they're expecting Doomsday to be this, like, oh my God, supposed to be the savior of all movies when it comes to Marvel. And I'm sitting there like, you haven't even set up a lot of these characters. You haven't done a lot of work to build said movies up that people want to watch these movies,
Right.
or even the series behind some of these characters.
Yeah, I mean, there's just not enough. And you put that together with the fact that Avengers Doomsday comes out the same day as Dune 3 does. And one of the things, if you look it up, you can learn this yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But Dune 3 has exclusive U.S. IMAX rights on December 18th.
So let's put this into perspective, right? So yes, it'll still be on the the big screens and stuff. But what we're saying here is that with the IMAX access in that sense, the if you don't have the IMAX rights for this, you're not getting a bigger ass screen. You're just getting whatever the the television, the the theater, whatever they have. Like if they don't have IMAX, that's what you're watching it on. So like when you have the IMAX though, especially where some people like big movies like some of these, you want to watch it on a bigger screen because you want to see all the details. You want to see all these things. So for them, especially with Dune 3, I'm not saying that they're not going to do probably better than Doomsday. Maybe. I mean, who knows at this point? I mean, Doomsday could be. We both know, Matt and I will probably say if Marvel's lucky here, we're going to say they're probably going to at least hit $500 million at least.
Yeah,
That's
so
maybe.
it's one of those things like if you're in the international markets, like Europe, Japan, like those places, like anywhere international, you can see it in IMAX.
Right,
So if
exactly.
you want to get your ass on a plane and go to like
Let's say Japan,
or I don't know,
Brazil. I don't know. I'm just throwing things out.
somewhere that shows it on IMAX, that's the only thing that you can do. You just have to go see it in a regular theater because, like I said, Dune Part 3, they're scheduled on the same day, which is December 18th. So Doomsday will likely not get shown in IMAX screens in the U.S. because Dune 3 has that exclusivity. There it is.
Exclusivity. Yes.
Exclusivity. At least for a 3-week window. So potentially, maybe after 3 weeks, maybe you could see Doomsday, but I doubt it. Like I don't think that that's the way it works.
Right.
Um,
I mean, so like the biggest thing is like for us, I know a lot of movies. Like what I want to try to do from here on out too is like I'd always want to see like, and this is where you can't get it on like your streaming is like, like most of the like Marvel stuff or like most general like movies, they usually have like a director's cut, so it's like a little bit longer. It's all the scenes that you wouldn't have seen in the movie theaters,
right.
because like that's where if they do it the right way, then there's extra things that you can learn about like some of the things that they didn't want to add in there. So for a movie like this, I would probably wait. Sure, you could watch it on Disney once it comes out and all this other stuff, but I probably would eventually like get like the physical CD so I could get that director's cut to know like if there's any other things that we would need to know. But I guess moving forward here, right?
Yeah, I mean, one last thing, I do think that there's more hype for Doomsday than there is. I mean, I haven't heard diddly and squat on Dune Part 3.
No, neither have I.
So I do
wait then.
I do think that there's more hype for Doomsday, but I do think that they're going to take a huge hit not having U.S.
I mean, yeah. I mean,
they really have to fucking sell the shit out of the international markets,
right?
For
to be able to do that,
for them to.
So I mean, because I know you probably have seen like the trailers for it so far, and like the some of the like pictures or whatever that they've been like sending up or whatever. So like.
Yeah.
They've been doing this now for a little while, so they've been trying to like slowly add little things. But like when you have a movie like Dune 3 or like some of these other movies, you'd probably want to start. I'm not saying as soon as possible, but like I would say maybe 6 to 9 months out to still kind of like get some hype and to
Yeah,
do all
you
that.
definitely need to build hype within the United States, way before then. But for me, I think there's a bunch of these movies that I'm really excited for, and I'll start right at the top is Mortal Kombat 2, Scary Movie 6.
Oh yeah,
I am excited about Spider-Man: Brand New Day. Don't get me wrong, because it does happen before Doomsday.
Yeah,
I'm just not at
As
the
excited.
level where it's like, oh, this is going to be the most epic Marvel movie. I think it's going to be good. I think it's just not on that same level.
Yeah.
Mandalorian and Grogu, I'm excited for.
Masters of the Universe.
I'm hesitant on Masters of the Universe.
Oh, okay.
Death of Robin Hood, surprisingly, I think that will be a good movie.
I don't.
I'm not looking forward to Resident Evil, and then Ebenezer. I think that one I'm more looking forward to because it's supposed to be a darker interpretation, and I love that Johnny Depp is playing Ebenezer.
So I'll say this, right? So I do agree with majority of that list. The Scream 7, Mortal Kombat 2, I mean, Street Fighter's a little hesitant because especially where, they actually
There's a lot of ifs
well, the
on
reason
on,
why
on some
about
of these.
well, no, so the Street Fighter thing and the reason why I say this is because they're bringing in a lot of WWE superstars into that movie specifically, and they have like, or at least I would say at least a few of them in there. I don't know about that one. I'm a little hesitant on that one, but of course, Scary Movie 6, I can't not want to watch that. Spider-Man
Right.
Brand New Day, that movie, like we're kind of agreeing on that where it's kind of like, we want to see it because like, you want to know like the lore behind hopefully some of the stuff that may fill in before Doomsday. And some of the other like because the first couple Spider-Mans were like, all right, but the third one, I'm like, oh my God, I was like, this is you can't beat that one. Like in my opinion, like that alone was like perfect.
It was good, and I know the Hulk is supposed to go back to. I mean, there's been rumors that he's just the Savage Green version.
Oh, okay.
But there's rumors that he's gonna be the actual gray version.
Oh, interesting.
I it's one of these. I think this one's a Sony, not Disney, being done.
See, and I don't understand that though, because if it is Sony being done, then basically what they're going to try to do is throw in Venom, which I think is exactly what they were planning on. Star Wars Mandalorian and Grogu, because I really had no idea that was going to be a movie, but I was like, that's fine. I mean, I'll be excited for that. Again, I still need to watch Superman. I know Matt's like, can you watch it already? Because the Supergirl thing, I mean, it depends, right? Because it depends on how they do it, especially where they just did Superman in that sense too.
I didn't mind Superman.
Okay.
Do I think it was the perfect movie? No, I don't. But I think it did well for what they wanted to do.
Right. I mean, a lot of these, I mean,
Like I said, they're really iffy. Like Street Fighter is iffy to me. It depends on how it's executed. The same thing with Masters of the Universe. Is Masters of the Universe going to be this movie that's just representation and DEI? I have no idea.
No, right. I was also going to say, like, I know my wife and I are probably going to see Toy Story 5 because I know she loves.
That's a given.
Well, yeah. If you don't know already, my wife loves Buzz Lightyear, and it's a thing. So we're going to see it. But I'm actually surprised you didn't mention Godzilla and Kong because that movie, the one they had the first one that they had, I liked that movie personally.
I don't mind Godzilla. It's not one of those. I probably would just wait for it to stream before I saw it. Like I wouldn't necessarily go to a theater to watch them. And I think -0 it probably is one of those movies that goes to streaming because
that's true.
-1 was streaming.
Yeah. Okay. So I mean, this one's interesting though because of the Clayface. I don't know if it actually is based off of like DC Clayface.
Yes, it is. Yeah, it's a James Gunn.
I'm curious about that one. That'll be interesting to see. I mean, and I will agree that Ebenezer, because like you said, Death of Robin Hood, maybe depending on what it would be about and stuff. But like Hunger Games, Resident Evil, yeah, whatever. That's my opinion too. But Ebenezer, I mean, I would be interested to see if like a darker version of that Christmas Carol.
Well, I can tell you right now, with Death of Robin Hood, Hugh Jackman is playing Robin Hood, and
interesting.
Bill Skarsgård is in the movie.
Okay, so I mean, we'll see. I mean, that might be a movie we could.
It's definitely one of those. I mean, I love the story of Robin Hood in general, but whenever they do like a very serious version, that's like, and you put Hugh Jackman in there with Bill Skarsgård. I mean, it's
gonna be an interesting movie for sure.
Yeah,
and then with Dune 3 and Doomsday, like I said, I haven't really watched the Dune because I know there's the movies, there's a series, there's I understand they're trying to build their own universe, that kind of stuff, but I don't know. Maybe I'll have to see it at some point. But it's
okay.
Like I said, with Doomsday though, like because again, we're talking about Marvel here, is that it is going to be interesting to see how they execute because if you think about it in general, right now they're just a schmoshpog of bullshit, and they're just like, okay, let's just throw everything together. The problem is with Doomsday, and this is where we both agree, is that you're supposed to put in so many characters. You're supposed to do all these things. And they're hopefully at some point, my guess is they're going to try to introduce certain other characters, which we'll see, how well they actually execute that. Because if not, the movie's not going to do well. It's not going to do anywhere it should have been. And so that's where we're kind of hesitant on,
I mean, it's
watching it.
It's different. So, I mean, we'll get into our main topic here because I think that was a great segue.
Yeah.
To be honest, but phases 1 through 3 like had a clear narrative spine, and you can say, well, 4 and 5 and what we're in, I don't know, I don't even know what phase we're in. 6,
I could be 5, 6 or 7. I don't know.
Who knows? But they had a clear narrative spine. Like we had Thanos introduced in 2012, Infinity Stone seeded across multiple films, Avengers film anchored each of these phases.
Right.
Even the side films fed into a larger arc, like Civil War, Ragnarok, and Ant-Man.
Right.
Like, those all fed into a larger arc, and every project reinforced like one singular trajectory, and then we get to phase 4, and we have all of these characters that we've seen maybe once, maybe twice.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen the Eternals once.
Right.
We saw Moon Knight in a TV show. We don't even know how he's related to the MCU or if he is even
Right. I mean,
remotely close.
and then you see-
She-Hulk, America Chavez.
well, you see Ironheart and Namor.
Oh, fuck Ironheart,
once.
I can tell
I
you
know,
right now.
but I know. And then Kate Bishop once in a TV show. Black Knight was literally in
Shang-Chi.
Eternals. And you don't barely see him. And then again, Hercules too, where he was only in Ragnarok, so like that was it. Like they're talking about trying to make more movies.
Well, and
of
Hercules
villains.
was
it wasn't even talked about. It was like at the
it
very
was
end.
the end. It was an end, like an
It was
end
an
credit
yeah,
scene.
right.
Yeah.
It had nothing to do. So like what we're saying is Shang-Chi's supposed to get. I think they said they were going to make another movie too, but. The reality is when you start to see a lot of these characters, whether most of these are in TV shows or like, in a movie, but just like shown briefly, there's no really reason why we just need to see them right now. Because again, volume exploded, but what was the spine? Kang was positioned as it, but the execution stalled. So these phases used to feel like chapters, but now they're feeling like catalogs because you're right. You're only seeing certain items. You're not seeing like the bigger picture in a
Well,
department.
we talked about this before when we talked Marvel. We were talking about how you introduce Sam
Right.
as Captain America. Like
Right.
you give him the shield, you like it. Now it's up to you. And then they do a show
Right.
where he doesn't even want the fucking thing.
Right. And then, well, towards
and
the
then
end he does.
and then
but-
by the end, we see him in the new suit and everything, and we're like, oh, cool, we're gonna see him all. No, we haven't seen him in 4 years, 5
Right.
years.
because again, we put them in a movie, and then basically they fuck up a timeline, or no, let me rephrase that, not the timeline, but the actual like story arc.
Well, no, they fuck
a
up the
character,
timeline
but-
because they use the timeline as a damn excuse. to
No,
be
I
like,
know, but what my
"Oh,
point
this
is,
what it is.
they also screw up storylines for origin stories,
Yeah.
for people. So it's like you're already screwing up so much crap. Now they're just like, oh, let's just keep screwing up more crap, and you're like, no, man, what happened to the actual blueprint, right? That you're
What happened to character development? What happened to? I mean, I'm sure in the notes we get into this, but like, you didn't just see Tony Stark in one movie. You didn't just see Captain in one movie. You didn't see Thor in just one movie. No, like Tony Stark was in, I think, between phases like 1 through at least 4, he was in like 8 or 9 movies.
right? And he, and so
It was about saturation. You're saturating these characters. When you show Kate Bishop, Namor, Ironheart, America Chavez, She-Hulk, the Eternals, Moon Knight, you can name any of these guys.
pretty much
How many times have you seen them?
once.
Kamala Khan. Yes, she was in the
Series and in the movie.
Marvel's movie, but
No, and you're right.
they're not
because-
saturated enough. So how am I supposed to care about a character named America Chavez
well, it was
when you only
one
see
movie.
her once?
Right.
We got invested because we kept seeing Tony Stark. We kept seeing the Hulk. We kept seeing these characters.
Well, Hulk you barely saw, but we're not going to go there. But that's
Well,
a
but
different
we
story.
did though. I mean, you
Well,
saw
you
him-
did, but he also got. He's the only
Well-
character I would say that got fucked
Yeah.
in the original series wise. But that's just
No, he did. But that was the thing. I mean, they don't feel like you're investing in these characters because you don't see them. Yeah, they teased Black Knight, but we've never seen Black Knight.
no. You're right because it's literally the sword talking to him. That's it. There's nothing
Hercules
else,
we saw in a freaking end credit, and
which
then
you barely
you're-
saw him.
you're trying to say like, oh, all these characters like what the Hulk's son Scar is that his name Scar?
Yeah, it's Scar. Yeah,
Um,
yeah, and you saw him for a fucking second too.
he was like a pussy Hulk. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, he looked like a fucking Chad basically.
meet my son. He's Chad.
It's like, it was just like what are we
He's
looking
kind of
at
a
here?
pussy. He's a vegan. Whatever.
He actually
Like-
goes by they them, but no, but I mean, look, we're just saying this because when you look at some of these characters, right? Because you look at Scar, for like you were just talking about, is like Scar's supposed to be this like barbaric, almost caveman like character, and like has longer hair, is gray,
And
this
then
and
the-
that,
yeah,
but like
that-
doesn't even look.
Hulk
anywhere
brings
close
him
to
by like some barbecue, and then he's like, "This is my son," and he's like, "Hey guys, Like
New scar.
he's got it. Like I think he had like his hair in
Yeah,
like a
it was like
ponytail or some
no,
shit.
no, no,
Like
no, no. It was a fucking like like maybe flat topper looking. It was stupid.
it was, yeah, it was the dumbest thing. I mean, he should be savage like the Hulk was. Anyways,
I know,
uh, so we get to this problem. And we talked about this too.
and we kind of briefly talked about this already, but yes,
The celestial corpse that Eternals basically leave behind emerging from the ocean, right? Like
good old Tiamat.
this is, or I want to say, like this should have been a myth level event. Like this should have been
A very
something that brings Avengers out. It brings people too, because you literally have a giant celestial being sticking out of the earth, and then there's no follow up. There's no geopolitical fallout. There's no Avengers level response, like I just said. And there's no cross project urgency with this thing until we get brand new, Brave New World.
No,
Brave New
well,
World.
a brave new world. No, but no, I agree with you because when you look at again Tiamat is that we all know is the celestial body that basically is there, and there's no because it's funny though because this is what Matt and I have talked about before is that you're talking about a celestial that could literally engulf the earth as a whole, but not only that, but like you're talking this thing that no other Avengers, no other superheroes, nobody even knows about until all of a sudden it just they kill it and then that's it. And then basically, like you said, 4 years later or so many years later, they're like, oh hey, by the way, we just found this celestial body
Yeah,
here.
and then, by the way, we also found adamantium.
Yeah, randomly thrown in there.
What? It's
Like,
like it's like Marvel at this point. Do you even know what your own stories are? Like that.
No.
That's what I really have to question, because you take this like it's a literal god
Right.
sticking out of the ocean, and it barely affects the MCU at all.
Right.
You have a literal god being, like a cosmic god being sticking out of the ocean, who, when he was alive, like you said, he could have completely destroyed the whole planet.
Right. And nobody was there to do anything about it besides apparently the Eternals. And nobody else was like, oh my God, what's that thing in the sky? Like nothing. Only these guys could take care of it. And that's what we're saying is like, like you're saying in the fact that it should have been this like holy shit moment. Like, where's everybody at? Where's Spider-Man? Where's this? Where are they all fucking
It
at?
should have been the Loki attacking New York moment, or
Exactly.
the
Thanos like coming out of the fucking sky.
Snapping his fingers moment, Ultron level
Right.
Endgame moment. Like
That's where it needed to
nothing.
be. You're right. And
crickets. It's crickets. We're like, no, I got to deal with not wanting to be Captain America. Get the fuck out of here.
well, think
with
about it.
this.
I mean, the only one I could say that may have had a myth level moment was really Doctor Strange in his movie, and to a degree, because think about it with
They
Scarlet
fucked
Witch.
up that movie too, but
I know they did,
that's
but like that, what I'm
the
saying
point.
is that's the only one I could say that was like a very like holy shit, we got to figure this stuff
Yeah.
out now.
Yeah.
But like, there's nothing else though.
And then, I mean, we'll talk about this in next week's episode, more of this like celestial problem, because obviously the Secret War is coming, and the talk about it splitting into 2 movies and not 1.
Oh, here we go.
So
they're gonna basically
how does this look like? Because Brave New World introduced this celestial as being the source of adamantium, and we know from the comics that adamantium was created by accident,
right from vibranium.
Taking vibranium and other metals and merging them together, and they created this adamantium. But next week we'll be talking more about like, what are they doing with the Hugh Jackman
Right.
Wolverine?
Oh, no.
Like,
Yeah,
because you can't even do that. Like, and it's not even Wolverine; it's Magneto too. Because Magneto,
right?
If you're saying that he was in World War II,
yeah, roughly, because that's well, you think about it, he was a kid.
So in today's
he's old as shit.
MCU, he'd be like 90 years old.
Yeah, he's old as shit. Like he's not anywhere.
You can't do that. You just can't. Yeah, you have to start new. So that's what we're talking about next week. But, do you think Marvel is just launching characters faster than it can sustain them?
Yes, and the reason why, because I know Matt's going to also chime in too, is that we're at a point where we're basically turning into DC. because we're at a point where we're just like, hey, we're going to throw all these characters in, and then maybe somebody knows who these people are. We're in the same point of that because how many times have you and I were like, who the fuck is this person? And like, where did this
Right.
person come from? And so, like, unless you read comics or unless you know like Marvel lore and things of that nature, you don't understand why they're placing them the way they are. And again, this is just an opinion, right? It's not fact or this or that. Both Matt and I agree that, when you have, so many female lead characters and so many, only so many males and so many this, like we're talking about the equality here. I'm not saying that you can't have female leads here, but like we're at a point too where we're also, and I'm going to say it, we're kind of pussifying them. Meaning I'm not talking about the women. I'm talking more about the male, characters because like we're not really giving them the roles that or the duties that they should be doing, right? Because when we talked about Hulk, we've talked about Thor now, or I guess we'll talk about Thor here in a minute, but like we've talked about some of these other ones that they're strong fucking individuals, and you're making them lower level,
Yeah, and
tier.
I mean, we'll get to the point of like the legacy swaps and everything else like that is going to come a little bit later. But like we're talking, like I had said this before. Tony Stark was in 8 major film appearances from Phase 1 to at least
Right,
like up to Endgame,
right,
and maybe even some beyond, like a little here and there after that. Like he's mentioned in some of the newer stuff, but Cap was in the the trilogy
right.
and also part of Avengers most of the time up until Endgame, like we said.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Thor, I mean, 3 movies plus Avengers plus there's all these other movies.
Right.
Even the Hulk was somewhat consistently woven in, even though they've never done Hulk the right way, and that pisses me off.
I know.
But it was this repetition. It was a saturation, like I said before. These characters were so saturated that you got to love them.
Right, and you got to see them.
You can't do that. Like Sam Wilson became Captain America in 2021. And then Brave New World came out like 5 years after that. Well, 4 years after that. So it was like, what the hell was he doing that entire time? Like for 4+ years, like what was he doing?
Right. Well, exactly. Well, that's the other thing. It's like, you throw in these like one-off movies, and again, like we've talked about just a second ago, like with the Eternals. Okay, what are they doing now? What are they doing? And is there some celestial threat that we don't know about yet? Like, you know what I mean? Because like originally Marvel was talking to try to do the whole Kang thing, but of course that fell through, and that is not probably ever going to happen unless they pick somebody else for it. But like you start to look at some of the other characters that they're trying to throw in and try to do a movie like Doomsday, and you're not really setting up these characters the right way because we don't know, like you said, where the fuck they're at and what are they doing. Because when you're talking about a Doomsday, like in this case, Endgame, because it started back in 2008 all the way to 2019, you had those, like we just said, all those characters were built. We understood the strategy. We saw the sorrow, the lot. Like we saw all of that stuff. And so when we saw Endgame, we were like, oh my god! Like now we know like what this was leading up to, and we saw all that being built. Where there's nothing now. Where what we're talking about now with all these characters. So like we've mentioned Sam Wilson. We mentioned a little bit of like Shang-Chi. Yeah, sure. There's going to be a new movie at some point. It just hasn't been, of course, going to be released yet. But then you got Moon Knight, who we definitely know for a fact is not going to have anything at this point, and they're just like, oh, one off. All right, see you later.
Yeah,
and it's like, so what the fucking point was doing a TV show? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, why would you throw somebody in there? Or like, for another one was like Werewolf by Night.
Well, that one was that's their Marvel Spotlight, which is
No,
their DC Elseworlds, baby. Like,
no, I understand that, but what I'm saying is
same
though,
brand.
But the thing is though, is that wouldn't you want to see some of those characters too, like just randomly pop in?
Well, yeah, but I mean, you can say the same thing, and this is like maybe something on the side, but you can see Chris Evans, Captain America, right? Like at the end of Endgame, he's an old guy.
Right.
And then somehow, what in Doomsday? Oh, guess what? He's young again.
Well, I
Oh,
mean,
well, that's a different timeline. Oh, is it? Because that's not what Endgame told us
right.
about time travel.
Right.
Like, you don't just all of a sudden become old and go, "Hey guys," like
Right. No, and then of course,
it's weird narratives. It's
oh, I know.
I don't get it at all. Like,
The only other thing is like, yeah, you see him again, of course, in Deadpool versus Wolverine, playing Johnny Storm, but like, oh well, again, there you go. There's your other timeline that you're talking
and
about.
that's we didn't even mention anything about. I mean, we're talking about when they introduce new characters, but we haven't even mentioned that they've been throwing these nostalgia characters
Right.
at us left and right. I mean, I would say it's kind of started with um not Daredevil, but
Deadpool.
Deadpool and Wolverine. That's where it started, where
Yeah.
we saw these legacy characters, and now they're like, oh, we're just gonna throw them in wherever we can, and it's like, but what are you gonna do with them after Doomsday? Because they can't all currently exist in the MCU. If you just discovered adamantium, and then you're hoping to introduce the X-Men, guess what? Every single one of these characters has to die.
Right.
And I'm not just being dramatic. All the original Fox X-Men, they need to die.
Yeah,
all of them,
including the younger versions of themselves that we saw before when they fucked all that shit up too.
Right. They need to clear the slate, and that's what next week's episode's more about than anything else.
Of
But
course.
they're not like these characters are launch events. They're not long-term pillars like Thor and Captain and Iron Man and Hulk and Hawkeye. All
Widow?
these characters.
I was gonna say Widow too, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean Black Widow too. Like all these characters, War Machine. These were long-term pillars. We depended on them because we were so saturated with them. And now you're just like, hey, here's Kamala Khan. Cool. But you completely change her abilities. You make them cosmic instead of, more of a natural ability like
Biggin is what it was called.
Like
yeah.
Mr. Fantastic.
Right. And that was the other thing, right? Because now you're like, oh, if we're going to bring in, Fantastic Four, you can't have the same thing. I'm like, who gives a shit? Because shouldn't you have something similar in the sense? Because I mean, when we played the Marvel, video game, actually, it was the Avengers game. She had the same abilities as Mr.
But she
Fantastic.
used them differently, though. I mean,
well, you're right. She did
because she would make her fist like really
bigger.
huge and like
she used it differently.
She would do
yes.
things differently, but you like, well, we need her powers to be cosmic because we already have her plan for for Marvels. It's like, no, you don't need to just rewrite the whole fucking story. Follow the blueprint. Follow the damn
blueprint. No, but like you're right, because like if you look at you look at Captain Marvel, you look at what's her face, the other the black girl. I'm trying to like her actual, not her actual name. It's
Rambo. Was it
Monica Rambeau? But she's the I can't remember her exact name, like Echo or not Echo. God damn. Anyways, her abilities are totally like cosmic, like both Captain and her. And then you got her that they had to follow suit because they're all cosmic. No, it didn't matter.
No, and then
that doesn't make sense.
At the end of Marvels, you do this stupid thing where she goes through she ends up in a different timeline with Beast, and you're like, how the fuck is this related?
Right.
We don't know because it ended right there.
Because we're not going to find out, right? Because then, God forbid,
it really ended right there. We're like, oh, cool. So she's with Beast, and is she going to be now? She's on X-Men,
like universe,
yeah.
No, and I agree with you, and so like, I guess kind of moving forward here, right? So
yeah,
we just, the emotional investment, right? And this is where we've been talking about this for so long, is that we're both, like Matt and I can agree that we're just not emotionally invested like we had been before, because some of the one movies, like I said, when you look at Spider-Man, oh my God, I don't know, A New Day, right? Like that was like, oh my God, like that was just it was cool, it was different, and it was cool to see all that, right? And then you saw like, I'm trying to think of another movie that was kind of recent, but like I can't really think of a whole lot. I mean, I didn't mind, Multiverse of Madness. I think some people are like, it depends, but it was just cool to see the characters that they were kind of bringing in and doing all that. But the problem is because they also like killed them in a sense because they did.
Right.
Um, there wasn't enough for us to love and and to do all this. And so like now, when you look at Doomsday, like sure you have all these supposedly characters, but we don't know anything about them. Like there's no like I said, there's no follow up, there's no nothing, and we're just kind of here and there's no reinforcement, right? There's no something stating like, hey, we need to follow this because this is going on and that's going on, and they're somehow intertwined. They're all basically fucking lone wolves. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah, and when you look at Secret Wars, which Secret Wars, I don't know if I think Doomsday didn't quite have as many, but I think Secret Wars is rumored to have like 85 to 90 Marvel characters in it.
Holy shit.
And you're like, who the hell? I mean, we know maybe, 20 or 30 of them? Who the hell are the other 85?
I mean, Endgame could have had that many people, but I mean, they chose not to. I mean, they should have honestly done that because that was a level of event that you could have had that many people. Because you remember that one? I mean, the fucking battlefield, right? And they're like, I got your six, Cap, like in that one scene. I mean, shit, that could have been right there. You could have had that many people. Like to try to do Secret Wars and have that many fucking people, and you have no idea who half these people are already.
Right.
And they're supposed to replace the original core members.
Well, I mean, I think people would know most of them by sight, but like you're not emotionally invested in a lot of them.
No, because we don't know anything of what's going on right now. We have no idea about, like we've said, Shang-Chi, the Eternals, the Marvels, America Chavez, so on and so forth. Namor, Ironheart. I only said that because I wanted to see Matt's face.
Ugh.
No, but like you see, like you see the characters, you see all this stuff, but like they're just like so. For example, I know Matt watched the show only because of one person, but the Ironheart series, with Mephisto, they used him wrong, and I know they used him wrong, and they should have used him a different way. But the fact that was the only character in that show.
Should have introduced him by episode like 2 or 3, not
No,
like.
but what I'm saying is though, I don't think
the
they
end.
should have had him in there. He should have been in something else and showed him differently.
It's one thing to have him in there, but he was the narrative device that they used in the show, and he wouldn't have been the narrative device that was controlling the issue when you look at the comic books. It wasn't Mephisto, it was somebody else, and they did use him wrong. Do I like the casting? I love the casting.
No, that's great.
I think they made a great choice with the casting.
You mean what is it, Sacha Baron Cohen or Baron Cohen? No, Cohen, sorry.
Yeah, I think he did great, and I think he would do great in future things as Mephisto, but
it's also the placement. I feel like that's the other big thing that they don't do well is that they use certain characters in the wrong place, in the wrong for the storyline or whatever they're trying to introduce these characters for. I don't think they think out through where should we place these characters and where would actually make the most sense. Wait, ready? Here's the thing. Follow the fucking blueprint, and you would probably find that out real quick.
Yeah, I mean, kind of like what they did with Thor towards the like in Love and Thunder, like they made him a huge fucking joke in that movie. You know what I mean? And you see the earlier Thors where he had some comedy edge to him, but like
it was serious.
By Ragnarok,
it was a joke.
It was a joke. And then Love and Thunder, he was a parody of the character he should have been.
What did I say earlier, man? What did I say? What are they doing with the male characters or the characters that we've seen before?
Yeah, well,
they're making them weaker than they should be.
It's basically like they take a piece of society and they say, well, everybody shows men as pointless and silly and stupid, and we're going to show that.
Well, and that's what I'm saying about when you got characters that are basically one of the strongest members of your team, and you're making them look like this fucking joke. And that's the problem. And that's why I was saying, I'm like, right. We're saying as a whole, like if you have a character, make them a fucking strong character and make me believe why this is important. Make me think like this character is important because of this. Show me that. They're not doing that. They're basically saying, we're doing the nostalgic factor, we're doing all this stuff, but we're not going to show you what you want. We're only going to show you what we want to do.
It's kind of like that Star Wars thing that we had discussed,
exactly.
like where Leslie Headland was like, I know what Star Wars fans want to see, and then she makes the Acolyte, and it's like, That's not what we fucking wanted to see at all.
Did I want to see a bunch of lesbian, space witches?
Yeah, well, no, we didn't. But this is the thing. I mean, Marvel is transitioned successors before they emotionally exhausted the original characters.
Right.
Like, it stops becoming about like identity, and it's more about timing and weight, and like, what does society want to see? Well, you know what? I don't. It's not society. It's Marvel fans.
Right.
What do Marvel fans want to see? I mean, we have Tony dying, and then they introduce Ironheart.
Which wasn't until basically Wakanda Forever, but even then it was just random.
But you knew it. I mean, Ironheart was rumored way before that. You know what I mean?
No, true, but again, the problem was is you see her in Wakanda Forever, and then of course they have the TV show, and so like she's supposed to be the
And whoever wrote the show gave her no emotional depth. She is like a fucking twig. Like, you could have put a cardboard cutout, and it would have more emotional depth than that character did.
well.
I'm not even joking. Like, if you watch the show, that she has no character development whatsoever. She is not. She basically has no other emotion than I'm doing it whatever I want. Like,
Well, and so like when you look at Cap, right? I mean, there was at least an emotional piece. The thing with the whole Cap to Sam thing, like that's the only thing I feel like out of the four of them, they actually had something there. Because they at least did that part
but
right.
I think the thing is, it happened quickly.
No, no. I agree with you. I do agree with that.
With Tony and Iron Man and Steve Rogers and Captain America,
Cap,
you could have done more stories, and in fact, that's why he is coming back, because guess what? There's more stories to tell, and I think there could be more stories to tell. But you know what? Sam now is Captain America, so it's like, well, fuck that. We can't do that anymore. Hawkeye, it was still active.
no,
He's still an
correct.
active character, and then all of a sudden they introduce Kate Bishop. Well, where the fuck has Kate Bishop been?
Well, right, and the other big thing about this too is, I mean, we don't really know, like, unless you're talking about like comic books or like again even some video games or whatever. Like, you don't really know who Kate Bishop is unless you're like again reading some of the comics that are now. Because
I mean, I know who Kate Bishop is based on that Marvel Avengers game.
Exactly. That's the only reason why we knew that.
Yeah.
Because if we didn't play it, we never would have known who the fuck Kate Bishop was. I would have never known. But again, like she's part of the newer generation of Marvel, and so like that's the other thing is like we didn't know anything about Kate, and then we were like, okay, hey, we're gonna introduce Kate. We're gonna
Yeah, she's like
whatever.
she's just a female version of Hawkeye.
Right. But the thing is like it's random how they meet. Well, they try to make it random, but
Yeah, I mean, but you do a show and then you introduce her, and then it's like crickets is nothing other than maybe at the end of Marvels when she's like, "Hey, I'm forming this team. Good luck on that, because that team's going fucking nowhere too."
Exactly, because we don't know anything about it, and so
It's basically a team of just females. That's
seriously, I mean, that's exactly what it is.
We're the female Avengers. It's Miss Marvel. It's Kamala Khan. It's Kate Bishop.
Yelena.
Riri.
That was a Riri. Well, I was going to
Yeah.
say, well, Yelena is supposed to apparently, whatever, at some point.
Probably.
But yeah. And then of course with Hulk, and I know this one's a tough one because Hulk never really got the recognition or even like again set of movies that we could have easily seen. I mean, shit, World War Hulk. Like, oh my God.
Which should have been what happened in Ragnarok.
Correct.
But they took the World War Hulk and they're like, hey, let's do a Thor movie, but we'll include the World War Hulk version.
Right.
And then, we have like a stupid scene where he's talking to Thor.
Right.
And it's like, what is happening? Like, you made not just Thor a joke, but now you're making the Hulk this big fucking joke.
I mean, the issue is after Age of Ultron, that's where they really fucked up with Hulk. Because at least with those movies, I mean, sure, he was in it, whatever, but like they just said, okay, see ya, and then you're like, where the fuck's Hulk?
Yeah.
And like, what's going on? So again, we have this unresolved version, and of course, now we've already talked about this multiple times before, but like in Endgame, yeah, he's what is he like? Hulk Banner?
Well, he's Professor Hulk, but
no, I know Professor Hulk, right? It's the stupid version.
Yeah, it's Pussy Hulk.
Yeah, there you go. I wanted Matt to say that finally. Thank you. No, so like and then you get She-Hulk, which I understand at some point you needed to introduce, but the way
I think she's completely out of Marvel at this point. So
Exactly,
I don't think you'll ever see a She-Hulk unless they put her in like Doomsday and they kill her right away.
Well, I don't even think the person that was playing her anymore is ever going to do it again. So
You're probably right.
no, but so that's the other thing is like, and that's what sucks is that when you're talking about trying to put in people, right? So like when Marvel did the first, or at least the time that they're doing it now with this whole MCU thing, they picked people that were going to commit and make sure that they were going to follow up with all this shit. Then it's like from 2019 on, they picked people and they're like, well, hopefully they're going to stay on. Oh wait, no, there's legal allegations. There's this, there's that, and then they fuck up and basically fuck her over too. I don't know, remember how, but like, there's all these other things that come into play, and now they're like, okay, cool.
Well, I think what's her name? Tatiana? Is that her name? Tatiana something? I don't know.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, but you look at these characters, and these are just 4. There have been many more swaps of characters, but you look at them, Ironheart, and I'm not trying to be like racist or sexist here at all. Like, this is where we have that representation and that DEI, and I'm not going to get into that. But if you look at these characters, a black female, a black man, a female, another female, swapped out for who? Hulk, Hawkeye, Cap, Tony.
So I will say
White
this.
men. I'm just
No. I understand.
I just want to make that connection because this is what Marvel has been doing. Like, you introduce more females and more of these characters. Kamala Khan, America Chavez. Like, you introduce more of these characters. I mean, even Namor is a Latino, so it's like, well, he fits the boxes, so we'll include him.
So what's funny is that even Namor, technically, technically he was an Atlantean, but like he was, I don't really think he had really a.
But he's not a white
race. No, I know he's not technically white in the sense of that. No, what I'm saying is that I will say one thing, right? At least they're following suit with the. I'll say it right. They're following suit with the color, meaning like of their race of each character, which is fine. But the only thing is that, like, what I'm talking about, like in the comics, they're following suit with the characters there.
They're following the color for now.
No, I understand. I know what you're going with.
Yeah, until they don't, and that's just a connection. But if you take these swaps and you compare them to, well, in the comics we're already on to our 4th, Iron Man and our 3rd Captain. I don't care about that shit. What I care about is that the legacy swaps in the comics happened after decades of them being saturated in their stories. Like, MCU swaps occurred like 10, 12, 15 years of those characters being the legacy characters. Like, yeah, do I think Peter Parker is going to continue being Spider-Man after Brand New Day? No, I 100% think Miles Morales is taking over.
Even though I think it's stupid.
100%, I think we're going to see him take over. And that's just the big and tall of it. Like, I just don't think it's going to continue. So, but in the comics,
Spider-Man's like in his 30s or 40s by the time he finally retires at that point.
In the comics, you didn't have these like 10, 12 years of these characters just being the same person. It happened decades.
Right. Well, and that's what we're saying is like, and technically Cap, I mean, realistically, I mean, and this is the weird part where it kind of gets kind of like, which way do we go? Is like Cap could have easily died in Civil War and then, whatever. And then they would have brought him back as something else. But no, I'm just saying, like, if you followed suit with the comics, like there are certain things and certain, stories that, can match up hopefully. But like at the same time, sure, like I said, Cap would have died in Civil War, but again, Civil War was also a major, we're talking that myth level event. They didn't even make that way. They just did it within themselves and only the characters around them. But like, there's other stories that were, at that level that they kind of downplayed a lot, in the movies wise, which I understand. But at the same time, like, we're talking, Civil War was with everybody. Like, there's so many fucking characters in that.
Yeah.
Technically with the whole, Infinity Gauntlet, all that stuff, like, there was like a shit ton of people. Like, it wasn't just like little itty bitty like this and that. Like, no. Secret Wars, another big one. Like, and all these other things. Like, they have to realize that it's on a massive scale. I'm not saying you have to have every fucking person on the planet, but at least have enough where, like they're supposedly saying about, the Secret Wars thing. Like, have that. Like, holy shit, we have like 90 plus whatever, because there's a lot of people on this.
But now, you have this thing, and I mean, this isn't in the notes, but one, we already know that Tony Stark had died.
Right.
But you can't have Secret War without Iron Man, so he's gonna have to play the role.
Right.
And so where are you talking? Where is he gonna come from? Oh well, that's a different timeline, and that's lazy writing. It
is.
You killed him off to switch him to Iron Heart because you're like, oh, this character is gonna really take off. No, you took a shit in a toilet thinking it was gonna be a diamond. Realistically, that's what we're looking at. Like Ironheart did not take off.
Right.
It was a shitty ass show. Like it was crap. It's not going to replace somebody like Iron Man because he was so saturated.
Well, not only
Even Sam as Cap, like no Avenger film to cement him as an anchor character.
Right.
And he had no immediate crossovers to reinforce that leadership as Captain America. We saw him 4+ years later, and we're supposed to be like, oh, I love this guy. It just doesn't happen. I mean, we loved Captain America 1 because of the character. That'd be like super, like,
Right.
he has that level. But Captain had a defined ideology, and they were both anchored in their films, in the Avenger films, back to back to back. It was repetition, not just the character that they were. It was, we saw them, we saw their leadership, we saw what they were doing.
I mean, and it sucks, but I mean, at this point, and you and I both agree, like, I think once they started this, like the Marvel series, like in general, once they had the TV shows, I think the issue is they were too focusing on that stuff and not enough on the movies. Because now you're at a point where, technically Doomsday should have, honestly, at this point, if they did it correctly, after 2019, they could have done like maybe a couple of shows here and there, but not enough to like overtake, like that's all they're doing, and then not worry about movies and not do all this other.
Yeah,
crap.
well, I think when they released Ant-Man, the Quantumania one,
Right.
I
know that because we talked about this. It was the CGI stuff.
Yeah, well, because initially the movie was supposed to come out later, and then they're like, no, we're moving up the date, and they had to rush it to get into the theaters, and CGI was not quite finished.
Right.
That's why the movie looks really cheesy. But this is the thing. It's just these. If you're gonna do successors, and I'm not saying you can't ever do successors, you need to anchor them and reinforce them
in a movie.
within their thing. So if you're doing a show, don't do another fucking show on some random Marvel witch.
Right.
Like, if you want America Chavez to be,
lead,
a young Avenger or whatever, then you need to fucking put her in a show.
Or a movie.
But probably a show. Like, at least
I understand what you mean.
At least we can watch and learn, but like, you have this expansion versus depth, and the depth is what we're saying that has basically died. In Marvel, character depth has died. And we have young Avenger pieces that are unresolved. We have multiverse characters that we have no idea how they relate to each other. Like, all of a sudden in Doomsday, Chris Evans is a young dude. Like, he's not the old man that we saw in Endgame. He's an old guy.
Right.
What do the other multiverse characters, how do they all get to the same? We don't know. It's the street level heroes, the cosmic heroes, the mystic heroes, fill in the blank heroes, pieces. They've expanded all of this into their stable, and now we're like, well, how does Black Knight tie into all this? Does he tie into this? How the fuck does Blade tie into all this? We don't know. Is Wesley Snipes going to continue being Blade? Because Marshall Ali certainly isn't at this point.
No, and so it's funny because I'm kind of looking up, what's going on now, okay, or like what's supposed to be coming out in the, basically right at least up until 2026, right? So like we already had Fantastic Four come out, Wonder Man came out, some point Daredevil's going to come out with Born Again. Season 2 wise. Then you got Spider-Man, your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. I did watch the first season. That's just me though. And it is a little weird, like I said, because now you have different characters that are basically the opposite color of them. And then, of course, you have, Avengers Secret Wars in 2027, which is, again, a year later. A year later after Doomsday. So let's start with that. And we'll see if they're going to have a part one and part two. So then you got also like Eyes of Wakanda, right? Which I've never seen. I don't know if you've ever seen it.
No, that's an animated one too.
Yeah. And so then you got Marvel Zombies.
I'm on the fence with Marvel Zombies. I like.
Well, the idea was nice at first, but now we're like, I don't know, is it really worth it?
I mean, I did like it. It just wasn't exactly like what I was picturing in my mind.
And then, of course, at some point, Punisher was just a TV special, not a TV show.
That's
Let's get that
a
straight.
spotlight.
Right, another spotlight, which is stupid. And then, of course, we got Brand New Day. So, of course, we've talked about that already. This is supposed to come out supposedly, unless it's coming out earlier. Well, is it supposed to come out early? Because this is saying July 31st.
No, that's probably right.
Okay. And then, of course, Doomsday is later on this year, but then mid to late 2026, ready? Vision Quest. So we're going to have basically a spinoff of,
The White Vision.
exactly. That's all we're getting, and that's literally what you got to look forward to for Phase 6 wise of what's coming out. Because, I mean,
And that's another character that we just
right. I'm like,
You take Vision and then you make him white, and he's like, no, he's a brand new character. No, he's fucking not.
No, I mean,
you just made him white.
Exactly. There's nothing there to expand on, and so I don't know. I will say this. Why don't we?
That doesn't check your boxes, though.
No, it doesn't.
An actual white man playing a white man.
Oh, really? That's how you want to play it? No, I say we close our case here because I'll say this, right? When you bring it all together, right? Marvel's issue isn't diversity. It isn't talent. It isn't even ambition. It's discipline, right? Because the phases lack a spine, characters lack repetition, successors lack runway, and villains lack long-term pressure. So again, when you look at what we've talked about in the beginning about early MCU, right? There's low volume, high commitment, flawed heroes, long-term payoff, right? Which was great because you got to see them in their element and you got to see like the buildup of these characters. Where now this modern MCU, right? We got this high volume, strategic expansion, fragmented follow through. Which wait, hold on, ready? There's no fucking follow through because we already know that
No.
doesn't exist. So the question isn't is Marvel dead? It's can Marvel refocus before the audience disconnects? Here's the question. I don't know, Matt, because you asked me that question. I'm going to ask you that question. Can Marvel refocus before the audience disconnects?
I hope to fucking God so. I mean, I don't think that the audience, the Marvel fans are not as disconnected as the Star Wars fans are with Star Wars. Like, I don't think that level of disconnect is there yet.
But it will be.
But if they continue down the road that they're going, they will certainly they will certainly disconnect. But I hope to God with Doomsday and with Secret Wars that
it will change.
They can refocus and change things for the better. Because if they continue down the road, I mean, they might as well make parody movies at this rate.
I mean, seriously, they might as well just go back to the 2000s and start, making fun of themselves and just do that. No, and I agree with you because, Marvel, it just sucks where, they really had a good run. They really had like a really good formation. And I know Matt and I probably both agree that, after Endgame, we were like, okay, so what else are we going to see? I was looking forward to Kang. I really was. And the reason why is because I'd love to see that. And then, like, again, the transition to Doom or Galactus, and all these other major things. Like, that was the cool part.
It's one of those things where the Marvel video games that I've played, like,
I loved Ultimate Alliance, though.
Ultimate Alliance was great. I mean, the first and second were great. But I'm talking, like, even Marvel Avengers, even though it didn't do well,
right?
The story was fire.
Oh, no, it was great.
The story was great. And I recently just finished Spider-Man 2 after not playing it for quite a while because I wasn't going to buy it. But the story is fire too.
It's a great game.
The story in the game is really, really well if you like that, cinematic style gaming.
Yes, correct.
when you go to the MCU, it's like, why can't you do like that level storytelling in a movie?
Right. Why don't you start talking to video game
Well, this
developers?
is a video game, and get the fuck out of here with this
Look,
bullshit. Like,
listen to me.
excuse.
So, when you and both Matt and I agree, right? So, Insomniac Games, the ones that actually made the Marvel, Spider-Man games, they've done a really great job with those video game series. Like they made a great story to tell how Spider-Man came to be, Miles Morales, and then even the second one where they kind of come together with Venom, for God's sakes,
My
and show
my
others.
favorite moment from that game, and we're going off a little
I
tangent
know,
here,
whatever. Who cares?
But my favorite moment from that Spider-Man 2 game is when you actually get to play Harry as Venom,
Yes,
and you're just running around, and you don't
give a shit.
have to worry about like how limited your powers are, or you're just in this like rage moment where you're just like you're flinging people, and
And you're right, and you're just
it
doing
was the
whatever the fuck you
greatest
want.
moment in the game. I was like, yeah, let's get on.
He's like, let's do it now. No, but it's because again, when you're playing something like that, and you're seeing all the emotions and all like how do you get out of this, all this other stuff, like it's crazy to me that a game like or those games in general where, and especially like you said, the cinematic style of it, you know talk to these guys because clearly they're doing well. They understand how this character is supposed to be and
Wait.
how it's supposed to look like. Go ahead, what's up?
They follow the damn blueprint.
Oh my God, Matt. That's
Wow.
crazy. And so like you look at Insomniac Games, you look at Santa Monica Studios. I'm not bringing up God of War, but I'm just saying, you look at these games that have done so fucking well, and I'm like, you need to talk to some of these guys.
And they tell a
to
great
do that.
story. Yeah, and they tell a great story. I mean, granted, did I love the fact that like Harry was Venom in the game? No, not necessarily.
No,
Like
but I mean,
I think that they could have introduced Eddie Brock,
they could have. But I mean, again,
but the story of what had happened and what had occurred in the game was, it was emotional. It was great,
yeah, I mean, there are versions.
tension.
Well, no, I was going to say there were versions of Harry being Venom, but for a brief moment. But then, yes, I know, Eddie Brock was, yes, correct. He was the original Venom, no matter which way you look at it.
But I think they could have made them friends in the
Right.
game. You know what I mean? Like they could have made them some kind of a friendship or whatever. Anyways,
I know. It's just a little
beyond the
sidetrack.
point. But the storytelling was great, and then we get like Ironheart.
I know, and again, because we're talking the fact that they're trying to bring in these new wave comics into the big screen, and I'm not saying you can't do that. At that, like right now, you shouldn't have done that. What you should have done is focus on what you had originally, and like you said, you bring in characters like Shang-Chi. Shang-Chi was great. I love Shang-Chi. I thought it was a great, development of character right there. But it sucks that we haven't gotten a new one. But like you have someone like him. You have, well, it just sucks with, Black Panther and stuff, but like, you have all these characters that you've already had, build a little bit more on some of these other characters. And then, maybe down the road where they're like, okay, so what are we going to do? Okay, we, like, it's like they shadow them. Like, think about it like this, right? When DC, right? So like when they have Robin, with Batman, Speedy with, Green Arrow, you know what I mean? Like Aqualad, all that stuff. They at least brought them up and they were working on them with him. So like you could see that transition at some point when they took over as them. That's what they should have done. Something similar to that where they could have brought them in slowly and then done all that stuff.
I hate always going down this fucking road. But when you make projects, you develop characters based on representation, based
Right.
on who they are. And you can go, well, that's not what Marvel has 100% done this.
No, it has.
Kamala Khan was more about her culture than it was for her as a character.
Correct.
Ironheart was more about her culture, her like who she was as a black woman in a black family, than it was about whatever the fuck was happening in that show. Like, this is the things that are happening. And I get it. Like, I'm not saying, you can't do a black show. Like, Miles Morales would 100% be a black person, like, focused show. Like, because of who he is as a character. But you can't just focus on that. You have to focus on who Miles is as a character.
Well, correct. But technically, he's half black, half Hispanic. So I mean, but I know what you were saying though. I'm just saying that you could have like what we were talking about too is like you look at Falcon, right? So like yes, it would be fucking weird if you decided to make him Asian or something else like that because like well, what does that have to do with any like where is that in the comics? Where was he ever Asian? You know what I mean?
Right.
So like yes, eventually, sure, we've talked about how Bucky should have been Cap first and then sure passed the torch to Sam and done all that too. The other big thing is like yeah, like we've said, like I mean the one thing is that yes, there is a correlation at least with the comics that yes, the character that they are, Ironheart, yes, she's black. Okay. Well, at least they got that right, but the problem is like you just said is that they're only focusing on that piece of it and not like you said the storytelling of that character and not explaining where she's coming from, like where's the hardship, where's all the stuff that we've seen before in all these other characters because again, when you looked at Iron Man, you saw him become Iron Man. When you see Cap, you saw him become Captain America. When you saw Thor, well, granted, he was already Thor, but like for him, it was like, well, where, like now he's basically being a human trying to gain his worthiness back to get Mjolnir back. Hulk, you don't even get to see Hulk technically because you look back at the 2008 version of Hulk where it wasn't even technically Mark Ruffalo, but like yeah, you see a little bit of like how he becomes to be and all this other crap. But the other thing is you know, if they could have done it right, they could have made him just like forget that movie and said, okay, we can do something else. But what we're trying to say here is we're saying, hey, you saw the character development, you saw all these things come to be,
Right.
and you're not seeing that with these new ones because you're only focusing on the race, the culture, the things that sure you can add blends of it, but it doesn't have to be the main focus, right? And that's really what it is. Like they don't need it to make it the main focus because in the comics that's not what they were doing. Miles Morales wasn't that. Like yes, he grew up as a kid and doing all this, but he got bit by a spider just like Peter did, and then he starts to learn how to be Spider-Man.
Yeah, he
And
has
start
more
to do all
electrical
that.
powers, but
But yeah, but
I mean,
you see what I'm saying though?
yeah, what's interesting is when you look at this, like in the comic books, Captain America did not choose Sam first.
Oh, he chose Bucky.
Bucky was the official one that took over as captain because one, he was chosen by Tony Stark and he had a letter from Steve to take up the mantle. Like that was
Right.
what happened in the comics. But in the MCU, they immediately jumped over Bucky to go to Sam.
Because of the whole Winter Soldier thing, but yes, that's part of the reason why they were trying to say that.
But he was still the Winter Soldier in the comics, is what I'm saying. Like,
No, I get what you're saying. I do.
it's just, I mean, they weren't the only, they certainly weren't the only two that were ever Captain America, but
No, but
it's one of those things like you're like, well, why was Sam chosen? What Sam didn't even want it in the first place because of the show. When you watch the show, he didn't even want it at first.
right.
At least Bucky has that super soldier,
Well,
part of him as far as I'm talking MCU. And you would have thought like they were almost brothers
basically growing up.
growing up. So you would think maybe they would have a little bit of a bigger relationship and be like, "Hey, it's your turn now."
Well, technically, I mean, if we go back to the comics, Bucky was just a little boy. He wasn't even, a man at that point, technically. And I mean, I know he grew up and yes, sure, he became a man and done all that. But like, they only made those differences, I guess, like I said, with the MCU. But sure, did it work for what it was? Absolutely, it did. But like I said, like you're saying, is that, jumping ahead and not saying following suit to what it was originally
Yeah.
supposed to be.
And I'm not saying it has to be that way. Like Sam could have taken the man, like he could have taken the mantle, but we should have seen him shortly after, and then shortly after that, and then even if he made small cameos,
Right.
he doesn't have to be the main character in every movie, but he can certainly make like a cameo or
Or like an Easter egg scene or something.
even like over the radio, like you hear him talking to one of the, it creates that connection between Sam being captain
Right.
in your brain, and you're like, oh, that was Sam. Like that's cool. Like I'm glad they included him.
Well, because think about it. I mean, technically, where Iron Man and Cap were basically co-captains of the team. In this case of the new wave, you'd think that Sam would take the mantle of kind of being the leader because he was already an Avenger, and that not only that, because you look at Riri Williams, who's just this kid, so for his sake, like he would have to be like the. I'm not saying he has to be, but he could basically be the leader of the team. In the sense of like if you're taking over the mantle of we'll call it the new Avengers, right? Because like that's how you would think it would try to go. Maybe eventually, sure, whatever. One of them could be the co-captain or whatever, but like at least for the time being, like you could have saw the team again. And this is the other big part is like you said, with this long gap, there's no team development. There's no, how are they like? As I said, we're gonna see them probably for the first time when Doomsday comes out, and they're gonna be like, what the fuck's going on? And that's
Right,
not what we want to
because
see.
with Thunderbolts, or I'm sorry, the New Avengers, um, as it was dubbed after the movie already came out.
Oh, of course it was.
If you see that movie,
I do need to see it, but I haven't.
you know that they've dubbed themselves the New Avengers with the asterisk,
Mm.
and potentially Sam's actual Avengers is a whole separate, like a whole different team. So you have the New Avengers, you have Avengers, you have potentially
The Young
somewhere in the
Avengers.
making Young Avengers, which maybe 3 out of the 5 or 6 of them.
Well, technically, Cap or what Sam should have been in the Young Avengers too. Then,
Well, no, because he's head of the regular Avengers, which
yeah, but
is
there's nobody there, is what I'm saying for the Avengers team.
well, not ones that we're familiar with yet.
Well, you're correct because my guess is it's going to be like Shang-Chi and a few others that we don't know
Yes.
about. Yes, but yeah,
Yeah, but most of the Young Avengers, like Kate Bishop,
Riri, yeah.
Riri, and
My guess is Shuri is going to be one
Kamala
of them.
Khan. Yeah, but there's a couple other ones that they've said are rumored to be, and we're like, these haven't even been in the MCU yet.
Yeah, where do they say the Young Avengers, or where do they say anything about them?
Nowhere.
Yeah, but so
it was mentioned. I don't even think it was mentioned in Marvel's because she just said, "I think we're forming a team or something."
right. So it's like, right, because you don't know what that is, and so like we're guessing. This is all speculation. We don't really know what the hell's going on, and that's what we're saying about this episode. Is we clearly have this disconnect. We don't understand what the fuck Marvel's trying to do right now. Hopefully, Doomsday will kind of clarify some stuff, but at the same time, there's no clarity on where the fuck everyone's at because we haven't seen anything, and there's so much disconnection with everything else going on that we're just saying at this point with Marvel, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah, and that's what we're talking about. I mean, there's a narrative disconnect, and we don't know what the hell is up or down with Marvel. I don't think Marvel lost its, it didn't lose its creativity. It still has creativity, but I think that they forgot that characters require time. They require consequences to matter. They require that saturation, that repetition, and we're not getting it. And that's where this disconnect is.
I know, and that's the sad truth, and that's what we got to stick by because honestly, we both agree that unless they start to figure out this shit, then we're gonna about to see this down, hill ship going down, and it's gonna be like the Pirates of the Caribbean in that fucking whirlpool. It's like,
Yeah,
that's exactly where the fuck it's going. But anyways, since we're gonna be closing this episode, because my God, I know we can talk about Marvel all day long, but we also need to have our lives too. So, anyways, yes. So, again, give us that fist bump. Good old follow, interact, subscribe, tell your friends. All that fun stuff. Check out the merch store, check out all that stuff that we've been talking about in previous episodes. You can always go on our website and, check out even previous episodes or even our Evolve episodes, which, we're surely, well, don't call me Shirley, by the way. He's like, stop that. No, I'm just saying, like, if you ever wanted to, like, check out some of the other, like other episodes or even just, like I said, the Evolve episodes, there's all that, vault in there. I know that that's what I was about to say. Sorry. We're trying to work on getting more Evolve episodes because we're realizing that we haven't done so many of them, and we need to start working on that a little bit more here and there. So, we're slowly getting there, but at the same time, we're trying to also give you guys more of this kind of stuff because we've also, I feel like we've been I'm not. Maybe we had a little disconnect. You know, I feel like we've been talking about other things, but we haven't really talked about a lot of the. You know, I know Matt's talked about a lot of the ideas with me, but I'm like, yeah, we're definitely going to be talking about some video games down the road. But I'm telling you, we're definitely getting back to our, let's say, our roots. How about that? Is that right? Or following our own blueprint?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we're gonna try to get back. I mean, we do evolve episodes roughly once a month, so I don't know if I don't think we're gonna change
Oh no!
change that trajectory.
No.
But yeah, we
what I mean
are.
is like we're
We want to
trying to do
do
more.
yeah, we want to do more. Discussions on video games. Like I think coming up within the next few months, like we'll have GTA. We'll talk probably Elder Scrolls. We'll talk Diablo. We'll talk. I mean,
We're
there's
getting nerdy, man.
there's a ton of video games that we haven't quite talked about, and so we want to get we do a lot of movies, we do a lot of TV show based episodes, but we don't do a lot of games.
So we're gonna get back into that.
We've done a few.
We have done a few, but it depends on the
Yeah.
games. But anyways, yes, no, I was just thinking about it, man. I don't think we've talked about this. I know, and we're going to finish this up here, but have we haven't discussed anything about like a new, remember like our quarterly, you know, um, AI fixed it kind of thing.
No.
So
No.
we're kind of leaving that on the back burner for now, I guess.
Well, no, I do have one, and the AI versus Hollywood. You're
Oh,
talking.
yeah, my bad. But
Yeah.
yes, the AI versus Hollywood, because there's
So,
still things we're going to be talking
Yes,
about.
I have one going, and the movie is a Western. It's called. I didn't put the. I should include that in the next.
Episode, yeah.
Yeah.
No, we'll
Not in the next episode, but I should include it in the plan. But yeah, no, it's a Western. It's called A Grave at Sundown.
Ooh, I like that
So
title.
it's a straight up Western. I want to do AI versus Hollywood. AI based movies that are not ones that are like sci-fi and like particularly geeky in general. Like I want to tackle
Different
other
genres. Okay.
genres. So
All right,
Western is the first one. Like I want to do rom-coms. I want to do comedies. I mean, we did a parody movie.
I mean, yeah, we'll call it a parody movie. Yeah, that's basically the best way to do it.
Some rom-coms. Maybe straight up action, not like
Okay, all right.
you know.
So but the point is, guys, you'll see more of this down the road. I mean, we we did. You're right. We did talk about this kind of like Western movie, and trying to like see how AI versus Hollywood, if it could be something that could be real or not. But yeah, no, we'll give you more updates once that comes out. But yes, until next time, boys and girls.